Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Million Pound Mission Podcast. It's your buddy Adam, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and this is episode number 324. We're talking about healing your body naturally with my friend Dr. Corinne Weaver. Before we jump into that episode, let's do a little update on what's going down inside the Mission Possible community. That's you guys. That's us. Last week we announced the big campaign of collecting this amazing group of people that includes you, my friend, that my fellow Million Pound Mission podcast listener. And we are doing something amazing. So last week was week 1 of the 28-day cycle. We did accountability sprint week. We're in the Facebook group reporting our food and fitness, a lot of energy there. This week, we've got a group chat happening today. It's happening in the morning. You can still sign up for that. Next week is week 3. Let's see. We've got a group chat happening in the evening on Tuesday. And we are doing challenge week inside of the Mission Possible community. We have a challenge that I put out there every third week of the cycle. And next week, we're going to do a caffeine detox. So with that, we can either work on cutting back on your caffeine or completely going no caffeine. I think that's what I'm going to do. I like to lead by example. And we got some great things going on here so far inside the community. And again, the best part is it's all free resources. Week number 4, we've got hot seats coming up. Those are one-on-one, me and you strategy sessions like you hear every Friday on the podcast here. You can get plugged into all of this at millionpoundmission.com. Just look at the top of the page, sign up for the Mission Possible community, and join for free. It's all free, and that is your favorite price, I hear. So dive in there, and let's connect and get plugged in with this 28-day cycle. Also, quick reminder, the lineup for Million Pound Mission Live coming in October here in the hometown and the home world headquarters of the Million Pound Mission here in Bloomington, Indiana. That is October 2nd and 3rd. We have tickets remaining still. We are getting ready to increase the price. So dive in there if you've been thinking about it. I've got a great lineup. The lineup continues to build. I'm adding more speaker slots. We are getting it figured out, and we're getting it dialed in for October. So check that out at millionpoundmission.com as well. All right, let's dive into what we're going to be talking about today here with Dr. Corinne. So question, is anyone out there as confused as I am about all the medical information that is circulating out there and how to heal ourselves and how to optimize our health? I feel like all the innovations that are happening in health and medicine, those are absolutely awesome. But right now it kind of feels like information overload. And today I'm bringing in my friend, Dr. Corinne Weaver, to help us get things sorted out. Now, following a childhood injury, Dr. Corinne suffered health issues, including severe asthma and allergies that she thought would be there for the rest of her life. And it wasn't until after her first upper cervical adjustment that her health began to improve dramatically. And the transformation sparked a drug-free wellness lifestyle for Corinne and her entire family. Now, Dr. Corinne enthusiastically discovered her calling to help others heal and has since assisted many thousands of people to achieve better health without drugs or surgery. She's got a great story. She is super knowledgeable, and I can't wait to dive into this one with you. So things we're going to talk about in this episode. We talk about how to heal our bodies from the inside out. We talk about allergies. We talk about migraines. I got personal with that one. My son is, dealing with migraines. He's been dealing with this his whole life. So I get some great tips from her on this. We talk about the importance of breathing correctly, something that most of us don't do that can have a dramatic and immediate impact on how we feel and our energy levels and our sleep and how we are able to function as human beings. And then at the end, we wrap up with some quick action steps that you can do immediately and start feeling better. All right, this is a great one. Dr. Corinne is just amazing. She's super, super intelligent on this topic, and I think you're going to come out with a lot of takeaway steps. So let's dig in without any further delay. Here is episode number 324, Healing Your Body Naturally with Dr. Corinne Weaver. All right, Dr. Corinne Weaver, welcome to the Million Pound Mission Podcast. How are we doing today, my friend?
I am doing great. Thank you so much, Adam, for having me on your show.
Well, we got connected a few months back, and I just fell in love with your message. just your presence, your willingness to give and to teach and to help impact people across the board. I think it's really, really awesome. I can't wait to share your story with my audience. I know they're just going to eat you up and just love what you have to say. So I know you've got a really unique story as far as your own personal health journey. You had something happen when you were very young and everything just kind of spiraled from there. So let's maybe start at that moment when everything changed for you when you were young.
I was 10 years old riding my brand new pink bicycle. Then all of a sudden, a horsefly landed on my shoulder. I reached over to knock it off, and then I went flying over the handlebars. I woke up in the hospital, missing my front tooth, and from that day on, I couldn't breathe. So it linked my head trauma to my breathing. And so my uncle would come in from the Amazon rainforest and bring in, not Amazon.com, he'd come in from the rainforest.
The real Amazon.
The real Amazon. And he would bring me these natural healing herbs to help me. And, this was in the early 80s. So no one really knew about any kind of plants healing. We lived on Hot Pockets. Our diets were horrible.
Yes.
And I was living on a breathing machine morning and night. I couldn't go play outside because someone would be mowing the grass. I'm allergic to grass. So I was like living in this bubble. My parents had to move because I was allergic to carpet. And so here I am living in this room, like this plastic bubble room. It's hilarious because my parents didn't know what to do. I mean, they took me to the best asthma and allergy specialist in the world, and all they knew was to give me allergy shots twice a week. And I would go back and forth to the hospital. There was many days, over 50 days of school that I missed in sixth grade because I lived in the hospital for the breathing and the asthma. I mean, this was severe asthma. So, I mean, if you made me laugh, I would go into an asthma attack. So my friends couldn't make me laugh because they were scared, but I always had that, the steroids with me, the inhalers. So here I am like puffing inhalers throughout the day. And it just got really bad. And, as I was living as a kid, I was like, is this the way it's going to be? I can't go outside. I got to live, on this inhaler and this breathing machine that I hated to do morning and night. And really, I mean, the medical doctors didn't really know what to do with me other than keep drugging me up. And so when my uncle would bring in these herbs, and he would bring in, I don't know if you've ever heard of cat's claw or unigado, which kind of helps your immune system. And he would literally bring in bark and like literally, it wasn't like in capsules and a really cool like supplements. You get supplements now like in a plastic bottle. He's like literally bringing in bark from the Amazon rainforest. And so he would make me a tea and a tincture, and I'm like, here, so you can and I'm like, feel better. And I was like, wow, there is some power to these plants. And that was like the first time I got introduced to like natural healing. And then he's married to Olivia Newton-John. So he spoke all over the world. He has a huge mission in himself and about saving the earth and saving the, plants and helping people. And so he would go visit Olivia. And when he left, this was before they were married, he got in a really bad car accident. And I went to go visit him in Florida because that's where he lived. And he fractured his spine. And so he asked me, he literally left the hospital. He's like, don't put any drugs in me. And this was like in the 90s. He's like, he just hated hospitals. And not that he hated hospitals and medical doctors. He just knew he wasn't going to get better there. Like he was just like this Amazon Indiana Jones guy, Yeah. Such an interesting guy. And so here he is. He's like, all right, I want you to lay these herbs on my back. And I'm 16 at this time. Like I have no clue what I'm doing, but I just was intrigued by helping him because he helped me. So I'm putting herbs on his back and I'm working on his back. And he's like, oh my gosh, you have healing hands. You should look into being a chiropractor. And that was the first time I really heard chiropractor. I was like, what is that? What is a chiropractor? I mean, we know it was like hurt your backs and, people are always skeptic and scared. Yeah. And my great grandfather was a medical doctor. So my grandmother was like, you're not going to be one of those doctors. Or that's not even a real doctor. You need to be a real doctor. Anyway, you get that abuse from family and, they didn't really want you to go into that. I mean, my parents were okay with it, but everybody else was against me becoming a chiropractor because we have a lot of doctors and nurses in our family. But I realized those doctors weren't helping me, and I wanted to learn something different. So I was really open-minded at age 16. And so I started studying, what we could on the internet, which was took forever to get on the internet, in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And so finally looked up chiropractic, and literally I just fell in love with the philosophy that our bodies could heal. And like, I was like, man, if I can heal from this asthma and allergy, I would just be so grateful that I didn't have to depend on medication every day to survive. And that just gave me hope. And so literally I jumped in chiropractic school. I finished out high school. I went to UNC Wilmington and then jumped right into chiropractic school. Still had never been to a chiropractor, just like literally from the philosophy of I love chiropractic and I'm just going to do this thing, you know?
Yeah.
And when I got to school, someone introduced me to upper cervical chiropractic, which is a whole nother realm of chiropractic. It focuses on the head and neck. And it made sense to me going back to when I was 10 years old. I was healthy up to that bike accident.
Yeah.
And like literally I busted my head open, missed my tooth. From that day on is when I couldn't breathe. And so it made sense. If I could get my head and neck in better alignment, then I could breathe. And that first adjustment changed everything for me. I got that adjustment. I was able to take a really good deep breath for the first time in 11 years.
Wow.
And the course of being under chiropractic care, over 1 year, I was able to throw off all my medication, and I've raised 3 healthy children with no medication. So it's just exciting. And so been in practice for 15 years, helped thousands of parents and thousands of adults just get their health back on track. I think we're over 100,000 now, something crazy, working with clients and just leading them. And now it's easy. But when I opened my practice 15 years ago, people still thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
But now there's like supplement stores everywhere. When I went to I'll never forget going to the first health food store with my uncle, and it like smelled so weird. I don't know if you ever went to a health food store like
it smells like bark.
It smells. I'm like, what? And there's like crystals everywhere. It's just like really out there. But now it's like people are going back. They're going back to the barks. They're going back to the roots, and they're finding that plants. Gosh, what were we doing? In the 80s, eating this and my uncle would take that, that bunny bread. I'm talking about the white bread.
Yeah.
And he didn't really know what gluten was, but he would come to my house and he would literally squish that bread in front of me. And he would be like, do not eat this. And I'm like, what's wrong with bunny bread? Like it's the good white bread, And now we know how much gluten and the processed foods, what it does to our digestive system and what it does to our health. And as you know, you're helping people around the world to lose weight. And a lot of that has to be diet. You have to make the stand of eating good nutrition to feed yourselves.
Yeah. Well, I've got about 401 questions for you now. Now that we've got your story out there, and it's interesting hearing you, because I've read your book, but hearing you tell it personally, this kind of brings it home to a whole new level. One of the funny things that popped into my head was how your relatives were like, no, you need to be a real doctor. Because when I, told my parents that I was going to go to college to get into personal training, they were like, oh my God, mistake of all mistakes. My grandfather was a career policeman, sheriff, and every time I would see him, the whole time I was in college, he'd be like, there's an opening at the fire department. I can get you on the police force. And I'm like, I'm going to school to do this thing. Until I actually started showing him like my income stream and stuff like that. Then he laid off a little bit, but I was like, my God, just have some faith. This isn't 1950.
Right.
So, I feel like a lot of people that venture still into that health and healer space, there's some blowback from people that we kind of need support from initially. So I'm glad that people like you and I have persevered beyond that to kind of prove to ourselves and everyone else that this is a legit thing. Now, when we talk about chiropractic, I still feel like there are a lot of people that are skeptical about chiropractic. And I'm not one of them. Like I see a chiropractor every single week. And so how can we get people over that hump of just being willing to try? Because I feel like a lot of people are just like, no way. It's bad. It's voodoo. It's witchcraft. So how do we get people over that hump just to be open-minded about it?
Well, we've been brainwashed to believe that if we have a pain or ailment that we're supposed to reach into a medicine cabinet and we're supposed to take a pill and that's going to fix our problems. Yeah. So first of all, we have to realize that healing doesn't come from a pill. Really, healing comes from within. And so getting just to know the philosophy, that's like I said, that's what sold me into chiropractic, is like just the belief system that our nervous system controls everything. It's the first thing to develop in an embryo. I mean, the heart doesn't know how to beat without the nerves telling it how to beat. So we're all integrated and all work as one. And I know, just like with medical doctors, there's good ones and there's bad ones. The same thing with chiropractic. There's good ones and there's bad ones. And so, going into chiropractic school, it was just an amazing journey to be with people that really are going, I mean, like you said, doing personal training, it's not the mainstream. These are people that are like usually going into chiropractic because they saw a difference in one of their family members, or they heard, and so our patients that come in, like I just saw a little boy, he's 2 years old, and the parents just decided to bring him in. But his first year of life, he needed 7 antibiotics because he had really bad ear infections. And then he got surgery. And then now he's got acid reflux and he's got gut issues. And one of my patients told him, hey, we may be able to help this kid because I helped their kid, not have ear infections and acid reflux and stuff like that. So the parents came in, and believe me, they were so skeptic, but they were willing to say, I'm sick of giving my kids drugs. And that's where it has to come to, is like, okay, if drugs aren't fixing the problem like people thought, maybe that we can look into alternatives. And we talked about nutrition, we talked about sleeping. Those things are important in health that usually medical doctors really don't cover. Yeah. They just try to cover up the symptom, and you're really not treating the cause of the problem. Right. So really focusing on getting the nervous system cleared out. And we have tools today that like really help with patients understand when their body, what we call subluxation, is out of place. I mean, not only do we have x-rays, in fact, chiropractic, the first person that took an x-ray was a chiropractor. Wow. Because he knew it was BJ Palmer. And now the medical field, how much do they use x-rays, But we were the first ones to like look at the spine. And when chiropractic started, the first adjustment, the guy was deaf and he got his hearing back. I mean, that's how chiropractic started, And so here they are, people coming from all over the world, like thinking that we could cure deafness. And then we realized, oh my goodness, we adjust the spine and someone would get better with their digestion. Someone would get better with asthma. Someone would get better, So we realized, wow, there's something to this. And now there's so much research showing how important it is to have a healthy spine. And unfortunately, people are always like looking down on their texting on their cell phone. Yeah. So you can only imagine. I mean, I saw 2 teenagers yesterday, new patients come in with head and neck pain due to texting, and bad posture. And so the parents are like, well, what can we do to, and you as a personal trainer probably see this a lot, is their spines are not in good alignment. Yeah. With personal training, massage, taking care of your spine, it's just the way it is now, like I think it's going to be the norm and it's not going to be alternative because we've been working so hard for this. And believe me, medical doctors have been trying to get rid of us for years. In fact, a lot of chiropractors were thrown in jail back in the day. And they've been trying to get rid of us, but we're still there and we're still hanging out and we're helping thousands of people every day. So I just love our profession and what we stand for.
Yeah. And I'm hoping we're getting to a place where the medical industry, the wellness industry, the health industry, the different factions can start working together instead of putting each other down. Like my wife's a physical therapist, and she said there's still a big divide of, there's like team chiropractor, team physical therapy, team medical doctor, and they're all kind of like working against each other. I'm like, it seems like these people could all work together really nicely and really truly help people and just investigate things from a holistic perspective. So I hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's all for the patient, Yeah. So, I mean, that's what integrative means. So integrative healthcare, and that's where it's coming. Yeah. I mean, I do functional medicine. And so when I go to my functional medicine groups, so I'm sitting beside an OBGYN, I'm sitting beside a pediatrician. Yep. This didn't happen. I just met with a pediatric neurologist and we were discussing a case for an autistic kid. I mean, that doesn't happen, so like it's starting to come around. That's cool. Where neurologists are like, and I used to not really like neurologists. And the reason was because they love drugs. But pediatric neurology is different. So it was kind of really neat to meet with that pediatric neurologist. And he's really about diet, nutrition, sleeping. And then, he has a faith base too. And so it was just kind of really interesting to sit down with these type of doctors, and he had to get out of the mainstream. So a lot of, these doctors really want to come out and help, but what happens, they get into a big business. And so they get into the big business, and then here's the roles that they have to go by. In fact, I have a good pediatrician here that we're good friends with, and she got out of big business because she had to prescribe a certain amount of antibiotics every day. it's all about money, right? It's all
Yeah.
about money. And so she just, it hurt her to just, I mean, she would go from room to room to room, and that was her job, is to prescribe antibiotics. She couldn't sleep at night, studying and learning and realizing how much, antibiotics can affect our health and our gut and long-term health for these children. And so now she opened up her own practice and is helping, children and parents all over the world as well. But she had to she had to leave the big business. And that's hard to do. And that's why medical doctors actually are coming more towards me and asking for certain advice, because they don't know how to do it really, because they're trained to work with other doctors in a group, or like I said, a big business. It's hard for them to go out on themselves because they're so used to insurance.
Yeah.
We've never, we never really have insurance.
Yeah.
I think insurance was good in the 80s for chiropractors, and then we just lost all that. I don't know what we did, but we lost it. And so we're all cash practice. So, and with you have to make it a priority.
Yeah.
With your health, and that's what you're teaching. You want to be proactive. Because by the time someone comes in with autoimmunity and all this other stuff, it's just so hard to get them well again. I mean, they can, but it's a battle and it's a journey. But it's really good to have people come in where they are well and they just want to continue to stay well. And there is people like that. And I'm sure that you're finding that they see that their parents or their grandparents are struggling in their health, and they want to be proactive now. And maybe that's just our age group that we're seeing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to dive into a few situations that I see a lot, and I just want to see your opinion. I know it's hard for somebody to be like, well, this is how I would treat this with a broad brush or whatever. That's going to be hard to say, but I just want to get your thoughts and opinions on a few different things. So just with people on a weight loss journey, and especially the culture now, people are getting more into fitness, especially females, seeing CrossFit athletes that are being out there and being active and doing mud runs and 5Ks. I mean, they're out there and they're getting active, but the issue is they haven't been active for 20, 30, 40 years. They've been sitting at a desk gaining weight. And all of a sudden now I'm an athlete. And so I'm seeing a few things pop up, and obviously, taking care of general mobility, regular chiropractic care, things like that, losing weight, that's all going to help. But I see a lot of, hip pain, a lot of SI joint stuff, L4, L5, people learn how to deadlift and they're using good form, but it's just they're hypermobile and their back's going out every other month. It seems hamstring issues, IT band, a lot of that hip, low back, IT band action happening. So what would you recommend for somebody that's on a weight loss journey, that's kind of newer to physical fitness, that may be kind of bummed out because they feel like they're getting momentum, and all of a sudden all this back and hip and stuff keeps kind of rearing its ugly head? What kind of strategy?
Well, usually when I work with patients, and you get people that come in, like you said, and they're overweight and they haven't worked out in 34 years. I really just say, start with walking. We should have that down, if we can't walk, then there could be a problem. So we start with basic walking, and then I actually watch them when they walk. And what you'll find is they'll have maybe a shoulder that's dropped or a pelvis that's tilted, or maybe they're, not walking straight. So before, and I don't know if when you evaluate your clients, is actually sit or stand and just watch them walk back and forth. And if you see shoulder off and the head's tilted and the pelvis is off, and maybe the way they're walking is a little strange, then that's what I was focusing on body balance. So before you even, and people do think, oh, I got the right form. But their weight, they're even though the form may be good, but their muscles or their glutes or their, lower abs muscles, they're maybe really weak. So getting them strong and walking and seeing the stabilization there first, and that they can walk at least an hour. I would say, sometimes you have to walk for 10 minutes and you're out of breath, you can't do anymore, then go 20, then go 30. And if you can walk an hour steadily without pain, I'm talking without pain, not my ankles hurting, my foot's hurting, my knee, my hip, if you have pain during that hour of walking, then you have a problem. Focus on starting there before we start doing any heavy weightlifting. And I don't know if that's what you do or anything like that, but I do focus on that, because if you can't walk for at least an hour with no pain, then we may have a problem with starting some weights. And if you are going to do weights, I usually have people lay down So they're not like fighting, gravity so much like with their posture. So you can have them lay down and kind of start with some small weights, but doing like deadlifts and stuff like that, if they're going to just get themselves all out of whack.
Yeah. What about, I see a lot of people that wake up in pain, and it seems like sleeping in their sleeping position may be an issue. So do you have any recommendations? Do you see, like, I am a sucker for Instagram ads, and I see some fancy pillow with a little hole that I stick my arm through. I'm like, I need that. It's obvious.
Right.
So any recommendations around sleeping position, pillows, alignment with our neck as we sleep, anything?
Yeah. So the cervical part of the neck, so it has it's shaped like a banana, it should be shaped like a banana, has a natural curve to it. And a lot of people come in and they have already lost the curve, which the curve is supposed to be developed when you're crawling and you're looking up to mom and dad. And then people will be like, well, I don't think I crawled. I think I was a scooter. I didn't even crawl. And I'm like, you probably didn't even have a good cervical neck to begin with. But anyway, so you want to have a good pillow underneath your neck. It's really not designed for your head. It's actually designed for your neck. So get a good cervical neck pillow. You want to sleep on your back. And a lot of people can't sleep on their back because they're not comfortable. So what we have is we have people put just some pillows underneath their knees, and that takes pressure off their lower back. So taking pressure off their lower back by putting pillows underneath their knees, getting a good cervical pillow. And then I always tell people, don't wear your shoulders as earrings when you're laying there to sleep. Like, bring your shoulders down. Maybe I'm all about breathing, because with me with asthma. And so I tell them the 4-7-8. So 4 meaning 4, breathe in, and you're breathing in through your nose. You hold it for 7, and then you're breathing out for 8, and you're breathing out through your nose. And the more you breathe out, it actually stimulates a part of your nervous system to help you calm and relax. So many people go to bed and they're literally looking at their cell phones, maybe checking an email or whatever, maybe get on the Instagram and buying something.
Guilty.
So they're literally on their phones in bed, and then they set their phone right beside them. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I would say at least an hour. Now, some people look at me and they're like, what? I cannot be away from my phone for an hour. But at least an hour to get away from your phone, social media, and actually put your phone into a different room, because they have found that can interfere with your sleep. It actually can because every time you get a notification, even if you have it on silent or vibrate, it actually, your brain knows when you're notified. It actually can feel that wave, it's crazy. And how many notifications do you get? Probably a lot. So put that phone into a separate room. And, that's a one way. And I like to take magnesium. Magnesium's one of my big to go, either an Epsom salt bath, which a lot of people just don't make the time to do an Epsom salt bath, but taking magnesium at night, man, my muscles just feel amazing if I do that consistently.
Yeah.
If I take that right at night, and then I'm relaxing my muscles, because everybody's under stress. I mean, everybody has different levels of stress, of course, but when you talk to people every day about problems, they're all under the stress. So making at least an hour where you can de-wind and de-stress, so you feel more rest, and and then in the morning you're ready to power up and go exercise with Adam.
Yeah. Yes. 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard. I want to get circle back around on 2 things. Cervical pillow. Can you describe exactly what that is? And if you have any brand recommendations or anything like that, because I want to make sure people know exactly what that means.
So there is, and maybe I can put it in your show notes. So there's an orthopedic pillow that I've been using for years. It's simple. All it is a cervical round pillow. It's not expensive, maybe $30 or $40. These people that spend $200, $300 on pillows, and they'll come bring them in, and they're like, I'm still not comfortable on the pillow. And I'm like, well, and every pillow, you might have to try it out, but I wouldn't say spend $200 on a pillow and thinking that's going to fix your problem. You actually may need somebody to help you with your neck. But having just a simple, it really does not have to be fancy, just something you can support underneath the head and getting that curve to your neck. Now, if you realize you don't have a curve to your neck and it's really straight, then I tell people you might want to just lay on the pillow for 15 minutes and then just sleep on another pillow until you start stretching those muscles and ligaments in the neck till it gets more comfortable.
Okay. That makes sense. And 2 of the least cool things, well, definitely 2 of the least cool things that I do in my entire life is when I sleep. Number one, I wear like one of those grandma sleep masks. And I sometimes I'll put it on
Cover up those
Instagram.
eyes.
Yeah. And then I use my wife's pregnancy pillow, like the big long ones, but I like to sleep on my back, and I kind of have this method where I put part of it, it's like a big U shape, and I put part of it underneath my knees, which I like. And then I hug the other one. It makes me just, I don't know. It's like almost like a weighted blanket.
Oh yeah, those are good, especially
Okay.
kids that have sensory issues.
Yeah.
Those blankets are fantastic. Yeah.
And big kids.
Kids, yeah.
The other recommendation I want to get is on magnesium. Are you doing like pill form, liquid, spray? What type of magnesium do you like?
I know they have all of those, right? I usually say find what works best for you, but I like the powder for me because I instantaneously feel it. And so it's not like a capsule, it's like literally a powder form. It's called reactive magnesium is the one that I use because it's 3 types of magnesium.
Okay.
Because there's different types of magnesium, right?
Yeah.
So this has 3 different types in there. And that kind of works. There's certain magnesium that's good for your brain. There's certain magnesium that's good for your muscle. And it's just mineral that's very deficient. Like every time I check people, people are deficient. It's supposed to be in our soil that we grow, plants in. But as you know, the dirt's just not good as it used to be. So we're just not getting that mineral. And I find people that are high stress, just magnesium just calms them down. I had this one patient that was just, his neck was just so nasty. And he was having migraine headaches every day. And literally I gave him just a couple adjustments and I got him hooked on magnesium. And he's like, the migraines are gone. And he's like, I can't believe it. I take this magnesium. And now he's addicted to it. I don't think he'll ever stop it now.
Yeah.
But he's like, it just makes me feel so good. And I'm like, yeah, it's something easy. I know there's a lot of things out there, but that is one mineral that I find a lot of people are deficient in that really can't hurt you. And it can really bring a lot of relaxation to your muscles and to help your brain focus.
Yeah.
We're all about taking care of our brain.
Exactly. And it can't hurt you, but the only thing you got to be careful of if you're new to magnesium, ease into it so you don't have disaster pants in the middle of the night, because that will happen. All right.
It makes everything really relaxed.
Yeah. A friend told me that. I don't know who he was, but there you go. No, it's, yeah.
So the citrate. Yeah. So that's the magnesium that's called citrate. And so that type of magnesium will make the bowels go a little bit quicker than they should. And so with my people that already have diarrhea, which there's some of those people like, no, I don't have any constipation. I go 3 or 4 times a day. I just tell them to do like an Epsom salt bath, maybe 3 or 4 times a week. And that's another way to get magnesium in those muscles without, rushing to the bathroom again.
Yeah. Yes.
That's a good point.
Always good. Well, like I said, a friend told me, so a close friend had experiences with that. No, I love to joke about my disaster pants situations. Let's talk about migraines, because my audience knows that I've got an 8-year-old son that deals with migraines, and we've been trying to figure them out. And your story, it just clicked today. All right, so legit, like I'm like, oh my God, this could be why. So when he was, I think 3, he's 8 now. When he was 3, he was at a daycare facility, and she left the room with all these kids. They had a couch with an open window behind the couch. He crawls up on the couch, pushes against the screen of the window, goes out the window, and does like a somersault and crash lands on one of those climbing dome things and smashed it. But he landed on his back, thank goodness, and not like head spike. Was okay. But do you think that could be the source of his migraines?
100%. Yeah. I hear that story all the time. So I don't know if there's any upper cervical chiropractors. Of course you could take him to your chiropractor to get evaluated, but maybe he needs an upper cervical evaluation just because of that head or just that trauma that he had when he was 3. It could make the world of difference. I can't tell you how many people we've helped with migraines. Thousands of clients come see me. It's kind of our number one to go. Even when you see kids, it's really sad because, when I saw a couple of kids yesterday, I was thinking, gosh, you're so young. You're like 8 years old and a 10-year-old. And I'm like, you're so young. You shouldn't be having, these health problems. And I remember I was 10 years old and I couldn't breathe. Remember? So then I look back at their history and they're always telling me, there was some kind of trauma. And sometimes birth can be a trauma.
Yeah.
So you don't have to rule that out. C-section babies have more ear infections and head stuff going on because they didn't get oh gosh, we might get a little crazy, but they didn't get the vaginal swab, that vaginal bacteria that's good for their gut when they were born because they were C-section.
Excellent.
I know I went off on a tangent there, but so all those things you have to look at when I'm seeing a patient. Did they, what kind of physical trauma, or did they have emotional trauma? Sometimes the emotional trauma can affect them as well in their health. Even if it's losing a grandmother or something like that, where they were healthy, and then something big, and maybe grandma was really close to them, and they lost their grandmother, and then they kind of just started having these health issues, and it could have been migraines.
Yeah.
So there's some correlation there, but you always want to, you definitely want to look to the cause. And you want to kind of like look at your son and figure out, go through some things. And because, drugs aren't the answer. I mean, there's obviously medication for migraines, but, then again, it may help for a while, but may not, so if there's not any genetic, it was funny because I was talking to a neurologist last week, and she kind of made me mad, and which sometimes happens. And but she's like, "Oh, I see kids with migraines every day. That's what I do." Because I had a kid with this child wasn't getting better, and so I asked for an MRI because what we found on the X-ray, she is a little girl, she's 6 years old, and she has a congenital deformity, which means like an area part of her spine is not formed right. And so I'm talking to this neurologist thinking, let's get an MRI just to see the soft tissue around the area that's not formed right that I'm seeing on X-ray. And she's like, oh, she just downgraded everything I said. And she was just like, well, her mom had migraine headaches, so I'm sure that's just genetic and that's why she has them. And I'm like, but there could be something going on that we could like look at. And so anyway, I'm going to deal with another doctor for her. I wasn't getting anywhere. And I was like, why can't you see that there could be something going on here that we can help? But she was just kind of poo-pooing it with the genetics, like, oh, that's what we see every day. And if their mom has migraine headaches, and the child will, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we can't, genetics play a big role, and I understand that, but the environment can play a bigger role. And I'm going to help this child. I already know I'm going to help this child, but it's just sad that sometimes you can't work with certain people that just don't want to be open.
Yeah. What are some other forms of treatment? Obviously, cervical care, but like non-medicine based cures or ways that you've helped kids and adults with migraines. Is it just like, are you making sure they're fully hydrated, or do you have certain supplements or things that you recommend? How have you seen people heal themselves that are struggling with the migraine issues?
Yeah, so, migraines can have a lot of triggers. And so just trying to figure out what triggers, and there could be food triggers. A lot of times we do food sensitivities. I had this one case probably about 4 years ago, and the guy, and when people are not getting better in my office, I'm like, okay, then I need to dig deeper. I really feel like it's my responsibility to figure out what's going on with this person, especially if they're trusting me to find the cause. And so this patient was probably with me about 4 or 5 months, and we just weren't seeing a change in his migraines. And I said, there's got to be underlying thing. And he actually pointed out, he's like, well, when I go to Chick-fil-A is what he said. He said, when I go to Chick-fil-A, he's like, I notice my migraines are worse. And I was like, So I ran a food allergy test on him, and there's certain ones that I ran to see if and actually what we found is like gluten and MSG. And so we know Chick-fil-A, they use MSG, and there's actually quite a lot of foods. You probably know, what MSG is, monosodium glutamate. Yeah. And so we actually it's funny because I was like, well, just don't eat at Chick-fil-A, right? Or, but then it wasn't just Chick-fil-A because he was eating, gluten pretty much on an everyday basis. I mean, we're in the South. It's hard to get people to get off gluten. They look at me like I'm crazy. So anyway, I said, okay, I have to prove to you. So we actually ran blood tests, and we found that he was highly allergic to gluten. And literally it was in his stomach that was just not digesting that protein at all. And so it was triggering that migraine, because a lot of migraines can be triggered from food in the gut, because there's a big correlation between gut and brain, right? So, we told him, and now he knows, right? It's his responsibility. So he literally got off the foods that he was sensitive to and did not have another migraine. But he does tell me, he comes in, he goes, every once in a while I have to have a Chick-fil-A, but he knows he's going to get a migraine. I'm like, you're crazy. Why would you do that to yourself? But at least he knows what the cause is now, and he has to make that decision. But
So
it was a really neat case study that we did with him, and that was just
yeah.
last year.
Yeah, that's gotta be cool to be able to just dive deep and figure out that puzzle that's going on that's causing that person to have things like migraines or poor health and dig in there. Do you enjoy that part of the process of kind of playing scientist and figuring out the root cause?
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it. That's the part of I got into functional medicine. Um, my mom got diagnosed with brain cancer right when I finished chiropractic school. And it was a really hard time for me because when they found the brain cancer, they only gave her 3 months to live. And so I started my own business at that time, and I was like, we're going to do everything we can. Medically, they didn't really have any hope for her. She just turned 50, and they couldn't do surgery. It was a glioblastoma. I don't know if you're familiar with any kind of tumors like that, but it's one of the worst brain tumors that you can get. You pretty much die from it. And so, pretty nasty diagnosis. And we did everything that we could. We still lost her, but she lived 3 years instead of 3 months. And I really got into studying more about functional medicine and learning about possibly why did she get brain cancer and just kind of looking at everything. And she had rheumatoid arthritis, and she got diagnosed young. She actually had irritable bowel syndrome when she was in her 20s, and then got rheumatoid arthritis when she was in her 30s. And so they gave her, any kind of autoimmune uh, disease they give you, bad medication basically to keep your immune system from not fighting. And so for
Right.
her getting cancer later on in life, it kind of just made sense to me, like her whole health. And she really didn't like I said, she grew up in a family that was very medical and pills. And so I really didn't get to do the best. Like I said, we did the best we could. We still lost her. With what I was going with that is I love looking at certain conditions and causes. And I know we can't fix everything. I know we have limitations, of course. But definitely I'm going to try to do the best that I can for each client to get them to where they want to be, so they can you know, serve a better life for their
Yeah.
family. And
Yeah. That's one of the things I really enjoyed about your book and hearing you speak. And just, I can tell that you're in it to help people authentically, and you just want to, and you get a kick out of it, and that's like I am with weight loss. Giving somebody the gift of feeling like they're in control of their health is amazing. And I know that you feel that, and I feel that the same. So we've been able to inspire a lot of people with your story now. And I'm sure some of the audience members are going to want to follow up, ask questions, dig a little bit deeper on what you've got. Now you have 2 amazing books. And so let's talk about how they can get their hands on those and dive a little bit deeper, or if they want to get connected to you on social media or listen to your podcast. How do we do that?
yeah, so Amazon has my 2 books, Learning How to Breathe. And I wrote that book there's some really neat testimonials on the end there, really to help it was really because people kept asking me the same questions every day. And I was like, I should write a book for them. And then I'd be like, here, read it in chapter 12 or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was really kind of just like a global, what I did in the office. And then the reason I wrote my second book called No More Meds is because one of my best friends, her child got diagnosed with autism. And here she is texting me every day what she should do. And I said, gosh, this would just be a great book to kind of help parents keep their kids healthy. And so she would text me all the time about her sick kids, and I would give her different solutions and things. And so I just kind of put a book together to help parents become super parents, and so that's the reason I wrote that book. But they can kind of reach out to me, drcorinneweaver.com. And then I have a movement starting called nomoremedsmovement.com. And they can get my wellness, like an ebook from there. So there's a lot of good information in there.
Awesome. And I'll link those up in the show notes for all of you out there. Now, Dr. Corinne, I know that we've got people inspired. I like to leave my audience with a little bit of action. All right. And that's one of the issues. I talk to people every day. They're like, I listen to all these podcasts. I'm so confused about this expert says this thing and the other expert says that thing. And they're bouncing back and forth. They're program hopping like wild people. So I would like for you to just lay it out simply. If somebody is a little bit confused out there, they want to get healthy, they aren't really quite sure where to start, just like what's a quick foundational health tip that they can start doing in the next 24 hours and they will notice a difference from, and they can implement that just as soon as they hit the pause button when we're done here talking today?
I would say start with breathing. When I couldn't breathe, it was a rough life. And so I had to really train myself to breathe. And so doing that 4-7-8 and literally trying to shut your brain off and just focus on your breathing and just taking that time to relax and stimulate that parasympathetic nervous system and tell your body it's going to be okay. Because I know it's so overwhelming. And even as a doctor, I keep going to classes and learning, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know. We'll never know it all, right? But we'll know, within ourselves is to listen to your own body, because your body will speak the truth to you.
Yeah. Great advice, Dr. Corinne. I know that you had to carve some time out of your schedule at your practice. You're doing this interview in between patients, so I appreciate you doing that for us here today and spending some time invested in the Million Pound Mission. I appreciate you so much, my friend.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, everybody. You've been inspired and you've got your action step from Dr. Corinne. Now it's time to get out there and own it every meal, every workout, every day. I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. Now, don't forget to head on over to millionpoundmission.com to pick up your free Mission Possible Community Virtual Welcome Kit. Now, this free resource is going to show you how to get plugged into our community chats, our amazing Facebook group. It'll show you how to sign up for one-on-one hot seat sessions with me, the PhD, and we'll even show you how to start your own local meetup group for that extra support. Now, remember, my friend, this isn't just a podcast. This is a community, and you are an important part of it. So head on over to millionpoundmission.com today and get plugged in.